What if I told you that building better habits doesn't have to be complicated, exhausting, or overwhelming? What if the key to transforming your life was not doing more, but doing less and doing it smarter? Today, you're going to learn 3 deceptively simple strategies that can make building good habits almost effortless. And I'll show you exactly how to get started right now, even if you failed 100 times before. Imagine for a moment that building a new habit doesn't have to feel like climbing a mountain or forcing yourself through a grueling routine that drains all your motivation before you even start. Most people fail at habits because they aim too high from day one. They try to overhaul their entire diet, start exercising for an hour every day, or write a novel in a week. And when they stumble even once, they feel like failures. But consistency doesn't come from intensity. It comes from showing up repeatedly, no matter how small the action. This is why the first step is deceptively simple. Choose a habit so easy it feels laughable. If you want to start exercising, begin with just 1 minute of movement, yerba movement. Don't think about a full workout. Don't worry about the sets or reps. Just show up and move your body for 60 seconds. If your goal is writing, set your target to 3 sentences a day. You don't need to craft a masterpiece or outline an entire book. You only need to get started. If you want to eat healthier, pick 1 meal this week to make a nutritious choice. You don't need to overhaul your entire diet at once. Small, incremental changes accumulate over time. The power of this approach lies in its simplicity and the psychological momentum it creates. By making the habit so easy, you remove the friction that often blocks action. You bypass the endless internal debate, the excuses, and the feeling of being overwhelmed. You prove to yourself that you can stick to something consistently, and that consistency is far more important than performing flawlessly on any given day. Once you've successfully shown up for 30 days, even in the smallest way, your brain begins to associate the behavior with a sense of accomplishment and identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who exercises, writes, or makes healthy choices. And when the time comes to increase the intensity or complexity of the habit, your foundation of consistency makes it almost effortless. Starting small also protects you from comparison and discouragement. It's easy to feel like you're behind when you look at what others are doing, but this approach keeps your focus on yourself and your progress. You're not trying to impress anyone or achieve perfection immediately. You're simply proving that you can do the thing every day without fail. In the beginning, performance is irrelevant, and what matters most is showing up consistently, building momentum, and creating a habit that becomes a natural part of your life. Most people think that building a new habit is all about willpower, about forcing themselves to do something they don't enjoy, or about trying harder than everyone else. But the truth is, the people who stick with good habits understand that success rarely comes from raw effort alone. Instead, it comes from understanding exactly what is holding you back and finding ways to work around those obstacles. Take the story of Jane, for example. She always wanted to exercise consistently, but for years, she told herself she was simply the type of person who didn't like working out. She assumed that her failure wasn't about her routine or her environment. It was about her identity. But when she broke the habit down into smaller pieces, she realized the real problem wasn't the exercise itself. It was the hassle of getting ready, driving to the gym, and working out in front of strangers. Those were the barriers that prevented her from starting and sticking to a routine. Once Jane identified the true obstacles, she began looking for practical ways to overcome them. She bought a yoga video and started exercising at home 2 nights a week, and she took advantage of an exercise class at her school because it eliminated the commute and preparation time. By removing the friction that had been holding her back, she made the habit easier to adopt, and over time, she built a consistent routine that lasted for months. The lesson here is simple but powerful. Most of the challenges we face with habits aren't about motivation or discipline. They're about environment, convenience, and the hidden barriers that prevent us from following through. Instead of labeling yourself as the kind of person who fails, take the time to analyze each step of the habit and identify where you get stuck. Are mornings chaotic and full of distractions, making it impossible to exercise? Do you eat unhealthy snacks because your kitchen is stocked with tempting options? Do you avoid writing because your workspace is uncomfortable or cluttered? Once you pinpoint the bottlenecks, you can make small adjustments that remove friction and create a smoother path to success. Habits are not about perfection. They are about designing your life so that the right behaviors become easy and natural. By understanding exactly what is holding you back and making strategic changes, you can turn seemingly impossible goals into achievable routines. Sitsu. Every successful habit starts with awareness, and that awareness allows you to replace excuses with solutions. The people who consistently build good habits are not more motivated or disciplined than anyone else. They are simply better at identifying obstacles and creatively finding ways around them. This approach transforms the process of habit formation from a struggle into a system, from a test of willpower into a design problem. And ultimately, it allows you to achieve lasting change without burning out or relying on constant self-control. No matter how carefully you plan or how motivated you feel, at some point you will slip up. Everyone does. The difference between people who succeed and people who give up is not that one group never fails, but that one group has a plan for when failure happens. Developing a strategy for handling mistakes is what separates temporary setbacks from permanent derailment. Think about it. If you miss one workout, skip one meditation, or indulge in an unhealthy meal, it doesn't make you a failure. What matters is what you do next. Do you let that slip turn into a chain of excuses and missed opportunities, or do you get back on track immediately? One of the most powerful ways to stay consistent is to adopt the mindset of a never miss twice. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It means that when you stumble, you don't allow yourself to stumble again. Maybe you skipped your workout this morning, but that evening you commit to completing it. Maybe you ate more than you intended, but you follow it with a healthy choice to balance your day. This simple rule creates a system of accountability to yourself without fostering guilt or shame. Another strategy is to focus on schedules rather than deadlines. Deadlines create pressure and anxiety, often making the fear of failure worse, while schedules allow you to build repetition and consistency over time. You're training your brain to associate certain times, places, and cues with the behavior you want to establish. This helps to make habits automatic rather than a constant battle of willpower. Alongside schedules, it's crucial to shift your focus from performance to identity. Success is not about hitting a perfect target every time. It's about becoming the type of person who embodies the habit naturally. Instead of telling yourself, I want to be fit, tell yourself, I am someone who exercises regularly. When failure happens, remind yourself that one mistake doesn't redefine who you are. You are practicing your identity, and the process of getting back on track reinforces that identity more than a flawless streak ever could. Preparing for setbacks also means acknowledging that mistakes are inevitable and planning responses in advance. What will you do if you skip a workout, if you fall into unhealthy eating patterns, if you forget to meditate or journal? Having a concrete plan eliminates the mental friction that often causes one small lapse to snowball into multiple failures. The goal is not to avoid mistakes entirely. It's to make sure they don't derail your progress. By anticipating failure and creating a structured response, you transform mistakes from threats into opportunities for reinforcement, teaching yourself resilience and consistency. In the long run, these small corrections compound into lasting habits that stick because they are rooted in understanding, planning, and self-compassion. And they give you the confidence to keep moving forward even when life inevitably gets in the way. Building better habits isn't just about starting small or planning for failure. It's also about designing your environment in a way that makes good habits easier and bad habits harder. Environment is often overlooked, yet it's one of the most powerful forces shaping our behavior. Our brains are wired to respond to cues, visual signals, contextual reminders, and triggers that tell us what to do next. If you want to build a new habit, you have to make the cues for that habit obvious and unavoidable. For example, if your goal is to drink more water throughout the day, place a water bottle in every space where you spend significant time, on your desk, in your car, on the kitchen counter, so that the sight of it constantly reminds you to take a sip. If your goal is to read more books, keep a book on your nightstand, next to your coffee, and on your living room table, so every glance encourages you to read a few pages. Conversely, You want to make cues for bad habits invisible or inconvenient. If you're trying to reduce screen time or limit mindless scrolling, put your phone in another room while working, disable notifications, or set up apps that block access during certain hours. If unhealthy snacks are your challenge, don't store them in easily accessible places. The fewer cues your brain receives to perform undesired behaviors, the less often you will fall into them automatically. Another important factor is context and environment design for action. For example, if your goal is to exercise consistently, leaving your workout clothes and shoes in a visible and ready-to-go spot makes it far easier to act without friction. If you need to write daily, keep your notebook or laptop open on your desk and remove distracting items that compete for attention. You want to reduce the number of steps between yourself and your desired behavior while increasing the steps between you and habits you're trying to avoid. Small adjustments, such as moving your TV remote away from the couch or keeping a bowl of fruit on the counter instead of cookies, can have a surprisingly large impact on your daily choices. Habits are not just about motivation or willpower. They are about shaping your environment so that the right behavior becomes the default. You're designing a system that nudges your behavior in the direction you want, making the healthy, productive, or beneficial choice the easiest one. Over time, your environment works for you rather than against you, and the effort required to maintain your habits decreases as your surroundings reinforce the behaviors you want to repeat. By thoughtfully arranging your physical and digital spaces, you can create a context in which good habits flourish naturally, bad habits fade into the background, and your long-term consistency becomes far easier to maintain. Once you understand how cues and context drive your behavior, you can begin to actively shape your world in a way that makes progress almost inevitable, allowing habit formation to become less of a struggle and more of a natural part of your life. Building better habits is not just about deciding what to do, it's also about recognizing the patterns that lead you astray and designing strategies that make success easier. One of the most powerful insights from behavioral psychology is that humans rarely fail because they lack motivation or knowledge. They fail because they haven't structured their environment and systems to support consistent action. Moods. If you want a habit to stick, it must be so easy and frictionless that it becomes almost automatic. And you must also anticipate the moments when you are most likely to fail so that you can recover quickly. Start by identifying your triggers and obstacles. Every habit has a cue, a time, place, emotional state, or situation that signals it's time to act. For example, if you want to start meditating each morning, the cue could be your morning alarm, a cup of tea, or even just sitting on the edge of your bed. And aligning your habit with a consistent cue dramatically increases the likelihood you'll follow through. At the same time, look closely at what prevents you from performing the habit. Many people assume the problem is the habit itself, when in reality, it's the surrounding logistics, discomfort, or friction. Jane, for instance, thought she disliked exercise, but the real barriers were the hassle of commuting to the gym, preparing her workout clothes, and feeling self-conscious in a public space. By identifying these obstacles, she was able to design a system where exercising became easy, convenient, and low stress. She could work out at home with short routines or attend a faculty class at her school, eliminating most of the friction that had held her back for years. And the lesson here is clear. It's rarely about willpower. It's about designing your life so that the habit is the path of least resistance. Another key strategy is to plan for failure. No one is perfect, and setbacks are inevitable. What matters is how quickly you recover. Adopting a never miss twice mindset can transform your approach to habits. Missing a single workout, skipping a meditation session, or indulging in a poor dietary choice doesn't define failure. Missing 2 in a row starts a dangerous spiral. By resolving to get back on track immediately, you maintain momentum and gradually reinforce the behavior until it becomes ingrained. It's also helpful to separate identity from performance. Instead of focusing on being perfect, focus on becoming the type of person who practices that habit consistently. Identity-based habits, seeing yourself as a meditator, a healthy eater, or an active person, create a self-reinforcing loop that helps you navigate failures without derailing progress. Finally, Keep your habits visible and easy to do. Reduce steps between you and desired behavior and increase steps between you and undesired behaviors. Make the habit so small at first that you can't say no, but be ready to scale it as consistency becomes automatic. The environment, the cues, the planning for failure, and the small consistent actions all combine to make habit formation much less about grit and more about smart design. If you reflect on your own routines, which single habit could you redesign today to make it almost impossible to fail? And how would that change your life if you stuck with it for the next year? If you want to see exactly how to turn exercise into an automatic habit, check out the next video and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more actionable strategies to transform your daily routines.